and welcome to the Daily Conversation for the Trades. I am your host, Christene Marie. Y'all, I'm excited to dive into today's topic around why relationships matter in the trades, because this is something that often goes under-discussed and also underdeveloped. You know, especially for home services, we have salesmen where they are expecting and leaning on the digital marketing team to drive leads. They'll go to the homeowners, deliver the appointment, and then they'll leave. We are not doing as much door knocking these days, which allows for kind of that person-to-person relationship building with the homeowner right then and there. We're also not going into other businesses and developing relationships in a lateral way. You know, I had a woman, she and I were talking about landscaping. She owns a couple landscaping businesses. She actually worked in Scotland doing landscaping for a while. So we had a really interesting conversation. And one of the things that she was encouraging me to kind of think bigger on is, what are the services that bookend yours? What contractors come in before you and what contractors come in after you? Because thinking along those lines, you can start implementing referral partnerships, but you could also consider expanding your own service offerings to have the bookend on either side, which I absolutely love. So I want to talk about the benefits of relationships from a higher level view, and then kind of get more granular into the opportunity for us to make real revenue based decisions as a result of these relationships. So number one of the aspects when it pertains to the homeowner themselves, Harvard found that 95% of purchase decisions are made in the subconscious, which is where our emotions live. Having a relationship developed with the homeowner allows for there to be that emotional resonance where, man, they feel tied into your company and your brand's mission, your values, who you say you are. Now, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, whereas if we're only leading with that element of empathy, empathy can easily turn into manipulation unless the salesman, the even call center who answers the phone with the homeowner, if they're not leading from a place of real authenticity of, this is who we are, these are our values. Because when we lead from that place, the thing is that we solidify an emotional relationship and emotional connection with the person on the other line or the person on the other side of the door. But what it also does is that it also is a demarcator. It also means that people aren't going to want to work with us. And so the sign of a truly authentic, strong brand is that they have people who say, you're not a good fit. If you're trying to be all things to all people, then the likelihood of you diluting your brand to the point of then emotional connection becomes manipulation is very high. So if you're wanting to establish relationships with homeowners and with the end customer, it has to be done so from a place of knowing who you are as a brand, having values that are strong enough to demarcate, have people say yes and have people say no. But if we're not willing to pay that price, then this conversation actually really shouldn't be taking place around how to establish emotional connection, because then it becomes manipulation. So this first conversation around relationship and why it's so important has to do with the homeowner, with the person-to-person connection that takes place between our team as owners, operators, and the end customer, making sure that it's predicated in authenticity so that the emotional relationship feels really genuine. And moving on to the second category of why relationships are so important is going to that example of what services bookend yours. And how do we go and strengthen relationships with other businesses who are going in before or after us, who can help customers know about us and refer us accordingly? So what that might mean is actually taken from an example from one of our clients. They were in the crawl space industry, and they were going to multiple businesses and doing lunch and learns. And they were saying, hey, can we bring lunch or breakfast into your team? And we want to tell them about our services and what we do. And so they were talking with HVAC companies. They were talking with even honestly landscaping companies, because a lot of times crawl spaces will have, the crawl space, you kind of enter through the outside of the home. They were talking with foundation repair companies. because crawl space is a different animal than basement waterproofing or even foundation repair, the exterior versus the interior. So they were going to these other businesses, having lunch and learns, and they had a great referral program, which was any customer that you refer to us, just the lead itself, you get $250. But then if they become a client, you get $500. And then it went up from there. And so they had this real program that was teaching other businesses, this is who we are. This is how we do business. This is why we do business the way we do. So teaching them again from that kind of authentic place of who we are, why we are, how we do it. And then this is the way that you can really profit as a result of partnering with us. This is what we'll give back to you. So it's a give in both regards. We're going to make you look good to the homeowner, showing that you've got, trusted partners, and we're going to give you financial revenue as a result of that. And it's very simple. You're already in their house for a job. Here's an additional opportunity to make more money on that job. So big opportunity in terms of strengthening relationships with the community in that way. Beyond lunch and learns and actually going to the physical office, there's the opportunity for chamber events. That's actually one of the things that we're doing on the Foundation First side, is really helping our clients think bigger in terms of how can you as a brand establish your authority in and among your peers? Because here's the reality is that yes, the relationship opportunity comes in monetary form through referrals, but it also comes through opportunity of real service. How can you share what you're learning with your peers around you and then also receive in exchange for what you give? So how are you able to learn from them? They're able to learn from you, and having a real relationship that's strengthened as a result of that. A week ago, I invited a gentleman out for lunch. He owns a plumbing business, and we talked about what's working with AI, what he's doing, what I'm doing, and then we were able to give to each other in that way. I offered him to come on the show, and then he offered, a relationship and an introduction to another woman in the space. So how can we serve? How can we really, really give to each other? In the marketing world specifically, there's a man named Joe Polish, and he owned a cleaning company for a really, really long time. And man, he dominated that space, but he did it by way of giving. Helping other people and doing it for free and just really offering service and offering insights through the modality of giving rather than always there being a transaction taking place. Relationships predicated in transaction alone are going to fundamentally be stunted in terms of their own potency for what they could become, rather than recognizing, man, there's a lot of opportunity if I'm willing to give without the expectation of it coming back to me in terms of them giving in return to me. So if we're giving from a place of overflow of like, man, guys, this is what I'm learning. This is what we're doing. This is what's working. This is what we're seeing and finding for our own businesses. Others grow as a result. And then the natural reaction is to give back to us. And isn't that how it always works? So number one, relationships with homeowners, the natural inclination for them to want to do business with people that they resonate with, that they have shared values with. We saw this with Tom's Shoes. People were so excited to do business with a mission-oriented company. So a question for all of us as owners and operators does our team have clarity around our mission and our values to then be able to share the why of why we exist in the first place with our homeowners? That why is really, really, really critical. It allows for that emotional connection, and it allows for people to feel like they're a part of something beyond just themselves. People want that sense of value. And then the second one, having the relationship developed with other trades businesses in the area. How can you look at the companies that come in before you come in and after you come in? And then where's their opportunity to establish those referral partnerships? Do lunch and learns. Go do the cold calling. Today I'm going to a home and flower show. There's supposed to be 3,000 businesses there. We'll see how that goes. There's going to be a lot of kissing babies. But y'all, there's something about putting ourselves out there and establishing those relationships in person. There's never been a greater need for in-person relationship building than in an age of AI. We are going to be the ones that stand out by way of going and doing those in-person relationship building opportunities. And then another way to build relationships, we talked about this briefly yesterday, but I want to drive this home. LinkedIn. Taking the time to go and engage with other contractors' profiles, their content, and really serving by way of supporting them and their brand. And then if there comes an opportunity to say, hey, can I come and do a lunch and learn? Or hey, do you want to do a joint webinar for other people in our industry? You've already established the relationship and built trust. And then the next side in terms of why relationships matter. Y'all, I was just doing some research this morning on what people will pay for customer experience. And experience has so much to do with that interpersonal aspect. People will pay 86% more for a premium experience. Our customers are no longer just trying to have a race to the bottom. So if we're thinking that price is our greatest differentiator, we're already set up for failure. We need, as a business, to have our own premium customer experiences set in place that then warrant not even just matching the price, but that are so high where they're like, wait, you're only charging us $1,500 for this when you're giving us worth $5,000 worth of services? Of course, no brainer. You're now the easy option, even though you're the more expensive option to the competitors. This is how we over deliver. This is how we leverage in a world of AI where other people are using AI to save money, cut off expenses, and cut off their team. Rather, it's let's leverage AI for the purpose of enhanced customer experience, enhanced touch points, enhanced relationship building, because we now have the time by way of saving in systems and processes that are now automated. That is why we have these systems, processes in place, is for the sake of relationship building. Yesterday, we talked about being data-driven, but also being empathy-driven. We need to have both hemispheres, the logical and emotional hemispheres of our brain working in concert and teaching our team to think that way. Yes, data-driven. Yes, doing what we can to save on time, save on expenses, so that the right hemisphere of the brain can really go to work to engage in those personal relationships with our end customer, but also laterally, because there is so much opportunity for us to serve each other and partner together in this industry that is the trades than ever before, if we're willing to step outside even of our own comfort zone and go and meet people in person, delivering lunch and learns, creating referral programs. And y'all, think beyond the trades. What about, and I'm speaking to folks who deliver services to the trades industry right now. So putting on that hat, thinking of CFO businesses that provide financial services to the trades. How can you go and partner with them and say, hey, by the way, we just created this software for our team, and it's been so helpful for our team as the owner operator of a trades business, or we've done this for our clients in the trades. Let's partner together and let's serve them better together. The better together concept changes everything. And so as we're looking at this, there's also the final aspect of building relationships with and among our team. We've talked about building relationships with our end customer, building relationships with others in the trades, but building relationships with our team and making sure that communication is so well articulated. Y'all, 15 to 20% of our total costs for these projects end up coming from reworking the job because we did it wrong the first time. That is astounding to me, that 15 to 20% of our costs are being spent and dedicated to fixing what we did wrong. Y'all, that shouldn't be the case. Just like how when I looked at the data for another one of our clients, 11% of all of the customers that we sold to, 11% of them canceled. We need to go and recoup where we're losing out on customers and where we're losing out on money because of lack of communication or because of lack of relationships. So us fixing the relational problem will allow for enhanced communication. And that's where, it's the right brain and the left brain. Maybe on the left brain side of things is maybe there actually needs to be a better system in place to facilitate the communication for the clarity and then recouping 15 to 20% of our cost on every single project. And y'all, this is potentially where I'm watching my countdown of the time here. I promise it's under 15 minutes. So This is where gamification could come into play, where actually you give bonuses to your project estimators and project leads if they're able to save that 15 to 20% margin, and you actually give it to them in cash bonus for the money that they saved for you and your business. So with that, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm going to be offline this weekend. Y'all, it's May 1st. Happy May. Let's go get it. Let's make Q2 better than ever. Have a wonderful weekend. I will talk to you on Monday.